Right? You can get a SAG card.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about planning for food storage and getting started and all of those things. I'm sure that all of you have comments, things that you've done, things that you like, and I hope that you'll share them. I don't know that I'm an expert, but I do a lot of it. So if that makes me an expert, then I guess, right? When I married Craig and I are going on 7 years, and right from the very beginning, I just have had this feeling like, oh my gosh, we got to get this done, we got to get this done. We got to get all this food, something's coming, I don't know what's coming. And then they came out with that show, with the preppers show. I was like addicted to that, you know? And I just think it's so interesting how a lot of people are feeling this feeling like something's coming and we need to start being prepared for that. Because that's exactly how I felt. When we left our food storage to go to Indiana, I was like in a panic, you know? I'm like, oh, something's going to happen. We're going to be in Indiana. All my food's in California, you know? What am I going to do? And the first thing I did, I mean, the very first week we got to our little apartment in Indiana, I bought a month's worth of food and stuck it up in the closet. I just, you know, just have that really urgent feeling to be prepared for things. I met a woman in our ward in Indiana, in our little branch, and everybody said, have you been down to Karen's basement? Have you been to Karen's basement? And so we never got over to see Karen until about 2 weeks before we came home. And she was canning potatoes. I didn't even know you could can potatoes. And she said, was telling me, oh yeah, she does it all the time. And I said, well, can we see your basement? And she kind of chuckled, and then she's telling me her story. She said that she had this feeling several years ago that she needed to get food. And she said the Spirit kept telling her, you've only got 7 years left, you've only got 6 years left, come on, you got to get on it, you've got to get all this food. You have 5 years, you have 4 years, you have 3 years. And then she looks at me and she goes, and this is year 0. She said, so I'm really making a push to get this done. So now that was last year, and obviously the world hasn't ended. So, and I'm not sure what that timetable was, but she felt that same urgency that I did, and I have since learned how to can potatoes, so it's kind of fun. Okay, so we have 3 plans that we're going to talk about. The first one is the I don't ever want to use it plan, I just want to know that it's there. And this is a picture, here's a picture right off the internet of a year's supply, and I believe this is from the Thrive website. And it was 1 year freeze-dried dehydrated food supply for $2,548.
Was that, there's like 9,000 meals there, was that for 4 people? Or?
This doesn't say, it says, yes, total 9,900 servings, yes. So, however, that would be distributed among 3 or 4 or 5 people, right? So, yeah, that tells you right there, 9,000 servings and 1,275 calories a day. So, a lot of that, and this is not a Thrive, but a lot of that is prepared food. So, like beef stew, right? So, this particular can, I think, it tells you how many servings it is. It is 10 servings for this can. I bought that because I missed your class last month, and I'm going to put that in Mylar bags for Christmas gifts that I'm put together for my kids. But that's what my daughter has. She doesn't want to rotate it. She doesn't want to use it. She just knows it's in her closet, and she just knows it's in there, and she's happy with that. Emergency essentials. There's several companies that will offer that, and some of them are on a pay-as-you-go basis, and some of them, they just offer a lot of different things. Emergency Essentials offers buckets. You can see the little buckets down here. So they have like a whole month bucket, or they have a month of breakfast buckets, and then a month of dinners buckets. And so then there's different ways that you can do that if that's what you want. I have a bucket. It's a 72-hour kit bucket for 4 people. And I bought it because I thought it was a really good deal, and then I got it home, and I'm looking at actually what's in there, and it's like Lipton onion soup is in there, and I'm thinking, well, that's not very hearty, you know, I mean, I want some hearty things, And I learned that, well, you get what you pay for, so, but I do have a bucket. And the reason I bought it was because I thought, well, if there's an emergency, I can pick it up and walk out the door with a bucket. I know I've got 72 hours of food, even if I'm not eating like a king, I'm still eating, so. So the advantages down here, I've got advantages. You can store it and forget it. Most cans are just add water. You don't need a whole lot of other ingredients. It doesn't take up much space. And the disadvantages are that it's expensive. You will get what you pay for, right? But it's probably really good. Probably tastes good. Okay, next plan. I just want to stay alive plan. This is what the church, these are the recommendations that the church has published. And that's what it takes to store. That's 1 year's worth of food for one person. So it really does not take up too much space. And having said all of that, if you go down to this third paragraph, it says this will give you 24.6 ounces a day. Okay, that is not a lot of food. It's about 1.5 pounds, right? It's a little more than 1.5 pounds. Think 6 biscuits and 1/3 cup of beans. Can you stay alive on that? Yes. But you're going to always be hungry on that. The starter kit that the church puts out, those boxes that you can get, inside there's 2 cans of wheat, 2 cans of rice, a can of pinto beans, and a can of quick oats. According to these amounts, this will keep one person alive for 3 weeks at about 1.4 pounds of food a day. 3 months, 13 weeks if you get 4 starter kits, and that's a good place to start. If you're thinking, what can I do, how can I get started, get some starter kits. At least it's something. And it's just under $10 for a starter kit. So 1 year of starter kits will be about $385. It's considerably less, but you're getting less food. You're getting 1.5 pounds of food a day instead of 9,000 servings of food, right? And you're just getting wheat, rice. You're not getting delicious beef stew or chicken lasagna, you know. But
so with the 400 pounds of grain, what do you do with that? I open up the bag, what do I do with it?
right, so hopefully you're not having a 400-pound bag of grain. You're either getting it in number 10 cans or you're getting it in smaller bags. By the way, I use these a lot. This is a number 10 can, fits in here, and they're really convenient, and I use them for all my cans that I open.
Do I have to prepare the grain?
So what do you do with that? That's a really good question. You're going to want some wheat, because wheat makes bread, right? And cookies. So you're going to probably want some wheat. But you can include rice and oats and all of those things as part of your 400 pounds. So oats, obviously, oatmeal, rice, any dish that comes with rice. So if you're going to go with the starter kit and just store these basics, then what you need to do is you need to figure out what to do with those. And I have available, if you will give me your email, this is a part of a recipe book, and it's online, so I have never printed out the whole book. But this is called Basic Food Storage Cookbook, Recipes, Ideas, and Tips from the South Jordan, Utah State. And the thing that I like about it is that each chapter, for example, apples, is how you use the dehydrated apples that you buy at the home storage. And then they have all kinds of recipes for using those apples. They have apple-filled cookies. They have apple pancake toppings. They have apple crisp and apple strudel and Dutch apple pie. Do you need other things to make those besides apples? Yes, you do. But if you have the recipes, then you kind of will have an idea of what other things you need to store. But it's a starting place. So they have a chapter on apples. They have a chapter on beans. They have a chapter on oatmeal. They have one on rice. They have one on dry milk and what to do with dry milk. So that's kind of a nice resource. Like I said, I didn't make copies of these for everyone, but I brought my computer, And so tonight, we can just email my recipe book to you if that's something that you would like. Okay. So down at the bottom, even the minimum can seem overwhelming when you're looking at a whole year's worth of food. So aim for a month, and then you just keep going, right? You just start small. Just keep it in the back of your mind. Okay, next one, last one. I actually want to eat what I store. This is my plan. This is the one I do. So I took this plan from a woman named Wendy DeWitt. If you Google her, she's got about 10 YouTube videos that you can watch in order. And she will walk you through what she does. She's actually a very famous speaker, travels all over the United States, giving seminars and telling people how to do her plan. And I have some, here's her webpage. There's a link there with her webpage, and here's a link to her live presentation. I have found that this is the easiest method for me. This is the one I like. And it's based on recipes. Now, in her presentation, she does 7 recipes. She says you come up with 7. Her plan, sorry for stopping in the middle of that sentence. Her plan is that in the worst possible scenario, we will have no electricity, no access to stores, none of that. And her plan is that she will cook 2 meals a day. She will have breakfast, and then she will have a big meal at lunchtime, at noon, because if you're cooking on a solar oven, well, you're going to need, the sun, right? And so she'll have her big meal in the middle of the day, and then she will have supper, which is how all of our grandparents all did that. A small meal at the end of the day. She also is going to make a loaf of bread a day. Now, whether she makes a loaf a day or she makes, 8 at the beginning of the week, I'm not sure how her recipe goes. But she will have a loaf of bread, a dinner, and a breakfast every day. And that's how she has planned. And I knew right away there was no way I was going to have 7 meals and eat those 7 meals for an entire year. After the first month and a half, I was going to be really sick of eating that same thing. But my mother says that's how she used to do when she was a kid, right? Sunday was roast day, Monday was stew, Tuesday was, and she always knew what day of the week it was by what they were having for dinner. So what I did was I scoured recipe books and internet. I came up with 19 recipes. Well, I did not know that there's actually a program that revolves around 19 recipes, because 19 recipes times 19 of each one of those recipes, that's 361. So if you have a recipe and whatever the ingredients are, you times 19 and you buy 19 of those things, you've got your year's worth of that recipe. So that's what I did. I came up, like I said, 19 recipes, and I put them in my books. So here's my breakfast book, and it also has dessert, notice, because, come on, I'm not going to go for a whole year with no dessert. That's just never going to happen. So breakfast and dessert, and then here are my dinners. And I also have my bread recipes in there as well. So each recipe, for example, this one says white chili. I know you can't see that. This one says white chili. And then here are my ingredients, and here it is times 19. So I need a tablespoon of oil. So for a whole year, for this recipe, I need 19 tablespoons of oil. I need an onion. Well, obviously I'm not going to have fresh, well, I probably won't have fresh food. So, but I can use a half a cup of dehydrated onions. Times 19, that's 8.5 cups of dehydrated onions that you can get at Winco. So you go there, you buy your 8.5 cups, I'm done. I've got my year's supply of dehydrated onions for this recipe. And that's what I did. I made a list. I got on my handy-dandy computer, which if you're not computer savvy, you don't need to do it on the computer. But I just made columns. So this was the item that I needed. This is the recipe that it goes in. This is how much I need, times 19. And how much am I going to need altogether, and what do I have, and what do I still need, that kind of thing. So after I did this for every recipe, it ends up looking like this. And they're kind of color-coded. So here's rice. I have 2 recipes, beefy rice and farmhouse soup, that need rice. And altogether, I need 7 cups of rice. That's not right. Altogether for 12 months, I need 19 cups of rice. Well, now shoot. I was doing this in a hurry. So this uses a cup of rice, so there's 19 cups of rice. Farmhouse uses a fourth a cup of rice, so for a year that's 5. And altogether I only need 24 cups of rice. Once I have 24 cups of rice, I'm done with my recipes that I need. Anything else that I have, any rice that I have stored after that is just extra. And I put it in green because I didn't have 24 cups. I only have 8 cups. I still need more rice. It's green. Everything I do have is blue. Everything I don't have is green. Use whatever colors you want. I think on my actual one, if I have it, it's white, and if I need it, it's highlighted so that I know what I still need. Green beans, I have green beans in pasta primavera. I have it in minestrone soup, shepherd's pie, and chicken pot pie. And for each one of those, I need a can of green beans. So that's 19, 19, 19, 19. And altogether, it's like 76 cans of green beans. So you buy a case of 24, you stick that away, then you buy another case of 24, you stick that away, and when you get to 76, you're done. That was one thing I really liked about this method. First of all, if I need green beans, I know that I have green beans. Secondly, I know that I'm done. Don't you ever have that feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not done. I need more. It's, no matter what I have, I still feel like I need more. But with the Wendy DeWitt plan, I knew that I was done. I had to laugh one day because Craig said, what's for dinner? And I'm like, there's nothing to eat. And he goes, you've got to be kidding me. Here's one of my recipes. Chicken rice roni and a can of chicken. Done. Green beans just for a side dish. Here's another one of my recipes. This is homemade spaghetti sauce. This spaghetti sauce was only 44 cents on that day they had them on sale. Didn't you? Gosh, they have spaghetti sauce at Winco for 44 cents, and I bought 10 cans. I got this on sale for, I think, about 65 cents, and I just felt like Jello. So I'm done. This is the other thing I like about Wendy DeWitt is that every time you go to the store, you can, whatever you're having that week, just buy an extra meal. And just buy a little bit extra. And if you're getting it all on sale, you can get it for fairly inexpensive. Then you put it under your bed. All my food's under my bed. All of our bed are on those little riser things so that I have room under the bed.
No, they're in the closet.
They're everywhere, right?
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. That's right. That's right. I told Craig, I said, food goes in the house. You know, that's just a really good rule. Food in the house. I don't care if I have to have all my dishes and plates and silverware in the garage. The food is in the house. So, but it's everywhere. So that's true. We do have food everywhere.
Marty,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you only eat these 19 meals in your daily living?
Oh, that's a really good question. So now that I have a year's worth of food and I have my recipes, if I go to my recipe book and choose 2 a week, 2 recipes a week out of my book, I will completely rotate all my food in 5 years. If I have 3 a week, I'll rotate it in 2 years. So every time I plan my recipes for what I'm going to have this week, I told Craig, I said, that is the worst job ever. I hate that job, right? I'd rather clean bathrooms than have to come up with what we're going to eat for the next week. But this is one of the first things I pull out, and then I look through there and say, well, what haven't we eaten for a while, and try to plan at least 2 meals out of this book.
When you're storing this, are you storing all your green beans together? You're not like somehow storing this like you're pulling out a mill, or
Okay,
are you?
I do not,
Okay.
but I know people who do that, and they use Tupperwares, large Tupperwares, and then they put their meals in that. I don't do that. I have all my rice-a-roni on one shelf. All of the canned carrots and potatoes are under the bed in the yellow bedroom. All of the meat and the bacon is under the bed in our bedroom. And so I have it. I do it like that. Okay. So here's my recipe. Rice-a-roni chicken, 1 box of rice-a-roni, 1 can of chicken. That's it. I can add a vegetable if I want. I can add a can of peaches for dessert. If you have a large family, maybe you do. But if I buy 4 of these, 4 of these, and 4 of these, I now have that meal for a month, right? And so you do that 7 or 8 times, and then you've got your 6-month supply. And once you get 6 months, then you go on to, you finish that and then go on. Excuse me, I just need a tissue. I have allergies, sorry. Okay, so for breakfast, think oatmeal, Crusties. I love Crusties. First of all, I really do love Crusties better than the other ones. Better than the ones you get home in storage. Sorry. I made homemade granola for you to taste. And so if Craig and I just had to live on these 3 things, we'd probably get several weeks for 2 people just on those 3 things alone. I also buy a lot of cold cereal when it's on sale. Craig likes cold cereal. I don't often eat it. But I have that stuck up above in the pantry room, several boxes of cold cereal. And so I have a month of breakfast and a week or so of dinners. Okay, here's what I like. You can start really small. Next time you go to the store, you just get an extra dinner or an extra breakfast. There, you started. You write the date on it. Everything has dates. Every box in my house has dates. Every can has dates. And then you hide it under the bed. Number 2, you can take advantage of sales. When rice or romaine is only 88 cents a box, you can buy several boxes. And you know how many boxes you need, right? Because you've got it written down. Number 3, you know what you're going to do with everything, which addresses Bud's question. What are you going to do with that? Well, you've got it written in here. Number 4, you can rotate everything easily. Okay, now I will tell you some things I don't rotate, like my wheat. I almost never make bread. But I can, and I made some for you tonight, so you can taste it. I made 2 loaves of totally whole wheat bread that I ground my wheat yesterday and made the bread, and it looks like it's the first time I've ever made bread. I mean, it's just not beautiful, right? So Craig goes, we got up today, and he goes, what are you going to do? I'm going to make more bread that looks prettier, right? So I made half and half bread for you in addition to the whole wheat, so you can taste them both. So I don't rotate wheat, and I don't have to because it lasts forever.
I have a question. Dates. You bought it or when it expires?
The date I bought it.
Then why not use the best by date on the package?
Because those dates are arbitrary. They're manufacturer's date. And you're going to taste today, I made a casserole, by the way, don't forget to put that in the oven. Oh, is it? Okay. So you're going to get to taste this casserole. Everything in that casserole is like 5 years old. The meat that I canned, this beef was canned in January 2013. And it's still good. So the dates on the packages, I just don't pay any attention to them.
I kind of learned too, you could even go to some of these manufacturers and right on their website, they'll say the date is somewhat arbitrary. I mean, I've read that if the pan isn't bulging and all that, it's probably just fine. 5 years, 3 years beyond the date or whatever.
Yeah, so my daughter throws everything away once it's
On
past the date.
yeah.
But there's best used by, best purchased by, recommended best, whatever. It's very arbitrary. There's no government standard for those dates.
Well, when I was young, which was many years ago, there was no date on anything. You know?
Your food will lose its value faster in the garage. But if it's in the house, 5 years, 6 years, and like wheat, sugar, honey, those kind of things will just last forever. I don't rotate those. They're in the very back of the closet. We have one of those closets that goes under the stairs. So now I can't tell you where I live because then you'll know where all my food's hidden, right? But under back there where you can't get it are all the things that I'm not going to rotate. So, okay.
So the storage too is the cooler the place, the better it is.
It is
The more
better.
you kind of stay out of the garage.
Yeah.
If you have a cool garage and it's not getting hot, it's okay. You're looking for a cool, dry place.
Whatever is in your kids' closets, whatever is in your closets, suitcases, winter clothes, take those out, put your food there. It's whatever is there is not worth what this food will be to you when you need it. Number 5, you always have a supply of things that your family eats on hand, which is nice. Like I said, so whatever my recipes are, I'm like, oh, I have that, I have that, I have that. And then what I do is a lot of time on my grocery list, I'm writing down what I've used instead of what I have to buy. Because I know that I used that and that I need to replace it. So that's how I do
You
that.
know, really, with your message here, you know how the church kind of suggests you do 3 months of what you eat, and then you do long-term food storage. But really, you kind of melded it in a way, haven't you? Because you are
That's right.
storing what you eat.
I am storing what I eat. So that's true. Okay, number 6, you can add dessert. You can store boxes of brownies and or cookies, or just store the ingredients. Like I said, in my bag, I have lots of desserts that are on my menus that I have stored ingredients for. Even a can of pumpkin, because at Thanksgiving, I want a pumpkin pie. Number 7, you can modify that plan for every kind of diet. You're storing what you eat. So we had one of the sisters that I visit teach, she says, but we have pizza every Friday night. I'm like, you can totally store everything that you would eat on a pizza. You know, okay, now I'm not sure about the pepperoni, but sausage, you can can sausage because I've done it. And I have dehydrated cheese, and the pizza dough you just mix up and, you know, store the tomato sauce. So yeah, you can store anything that you eat. You probably can figure out a way to store. I have a grandson who has celiac disease, which is no gluten. He just gets violently ill if he has any at all. But they just figure out what he can eat, and then they store that. So it works. We have a lot of ladies in our board that are vegetarians, you know, more power to them. I like meat, and so I store a lot of meat. But canned meat is very expensive. So this can is probably about $1.85, and it is 12 ounces, so 3/4 of a pound. This is a pound of chicken, and I bought it at $1.59 a pound. So it's cheaper all the way around. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. Next time, number 8, items like spices and baking powder are just added as a matter of course. When I first started storing food, by the way, I already have this. This is like from the 70s. You can tell the harvest gold color, right? And it still works just fine. I think, didn't I let you borrow, maybe it was Melody. I let somebody borrow it, and it drips water a little bit from the inside. She was all freaked out because it was dripping water. But it holds pressure just fine. But you have to have a pressure canner. Now, you can get pressure canners at Walmart for like $70. They are not the same. This pressure canner has a gauge on it, and those do not. But what they have, this little steam vent right here, they have weighted rockers. And so for where we live here, we need 10-pound rockers. The weight of the rocker depends on your altitude. So if you live in Utah, you need a 15-pound rocker. But here, we only need a 10-pound rocker. And once it starts rocking, you know that it's reached 10 pounds per square inch, which is what my dial tells me. And then you just process it for as long as you can. So you can get these fairly inexpensive. They're like anything, you know. You probably don't want the Volkswagen, but you really don't need the Cadillac either. You know, just get the Chevy. So, and it will work just fine.
Marty, one thing we did in our board is like people went in together and got one like an All-American or whatever. That's somewhat expensive, but and then this thing just, I'm part of it, and so we just pass it around, and you know, we're ready.
I know. I can't tell you how often I pull this out and use it. So once a month, I buy all my meat through a company called Zacon Fresh, and it comes in 40-pound boxes, which is a lot when you look at it. You're like, oh my gosh, 40 pounds, and times $3.99 for hamburger adds up. But then I never have to buy a hamburger at the store. Never. I will can up out of those 40 pounds. I'll probably can up 30 or 35 of those pounds, and then just stick some in the freezer for when I want to have meatloaf, right? Because when you can the hamburger, it has to be ground. Does it have to be ground? No, but if you pack it in there, once it's cooked, you'll never get it out. It will be meatloaf in the jar.
Are you browning the hamburger before?
I do brown it.
Other than like cook right.
I do brown it. Like I said, the processing of the meat will cook it, but if you don't brown it, it'll be stuck in the jar and you'll not get it out. Now the chicken, I don't cook the chicken. I just cut it in little chunks. You can kind of see the size chunks of chicken in there, just to get it in the jar. And you don't have to pre-cook. You don't have to pre-cook any of the meat. I did have learned how to can bacon, and I opened a jar of bacon yesterday, and I brought it so that you can see what it looks like after you can it and after you open it. I've got some bacon in the kitchen. Okay, spices. All my spices I put in little bags like this. I usually measure them out like a half a cup or a cup at the most, and then vacuum sealers. So that was the other thing that I really wanted. I wanted a pressure canner, and I wanted a vacuum sealer. That's what I started with. Then I made a list of all my wish lists. Oh, I wished for a dehydrator, which I ended up getting. And it drives Craig crazy because it makes this humming sound like forever. I wished for, I did not have a fruit canner, and they're only $20. So I bought one of those. I bought an applesauce maker. I'd had one a long time ago, and the parts wore away, and I ended up buying a new one of those. And so just other little things. Oh, I decided I wanted a wheat grinder that I could use without electricity. And so I bought a really nice one. It was like over $200 for my wheat grinder, and then I tried to use it. Granddaughter and I am like, ooh, let's grind our wheat and make bread, right? So we hook it all up, and I'm like, and so we had to grind it twice. We had to set it on the highest thing, right, and grind it all, and then we put it on the smoothest, and we're like, 1, 2, 3, and so we just say, okay, I'll do 25 turns and you do 25 turns, and I'll do 25 turns and you. And after like 20 minutes, we had a cup and a half. I said, that's it. So then I bought a power one.
Was it pretty fine?
It was fine.
It was fine?
Yes, it was
Okay.
fine.
So really, in a pinch,
You can do
yes,
it, and
yes,
guys, you rotate it. and-
yes. So on one of those prepper shows, though, out in the Ozarks of Tennessee, this guy had hooked up a bicycle to somehow to his grinder, you know, and the kid gets on, rides the bike, and the wheat grinds up. I'm like,
Wonder Mill.
I
is
need
one like
that. That's what I need.
Wonder Mill is one, they have a version that you can hook up to a bicycle.
That's totally
So
right.
it'll run power and it will convert to bicycle.
Wow. That's nice. The
They
one
have
I
different ones,
have.
so you gotta make sure you get the right one.
Okay, so the one I have will work off a drill. You can put a drill in there and turn the drill, and it'll turn and it'll work like that. So it does work, but if you have no power, then the drill's not going to work either, right? But I do have one. If anybody wants to. And then I bought a power one so that I didn't have to do that. Okay. Anyway, I vacuum seal all of my spices and everything. Here's, for example, here's nuts, because I use the nuts in the granola, has nuts in it.
So that won't go rancid.
I keep it, you know what? Okay, so it will. Nuts will go rancid, not as much if they're vacuum sealed, but we have an extra refrigerator in the garage, and I keep all the nuts in the refrigerator for that reason. Other things like this does not store as well as just flour, because this has got oil in it, and the oil will go rancid. However, I just opened like a jar of, vegetable oil that was 5 years old, and it's still good.
But also with some of those things, if you don't put them in a, what do you call vacuum sealed, like the Mylar bags, those will get those little bugs.
I have
and
not
those
had
little-
any problems. In the past, years ago, I had an infestation of pantry flies. And they were bad. And somebody told me that sometimes the eggs are in the glue that they glue in the boxes, you know. But since I've been here in Murrieta, and I've got a ton of stuff that is not repackaged.
So
and
we
on
get
the
it all the
shelves.
time, and the thing of it is, they're allowed to have so many rat hairs per cup of thing, and so many eggs, and so many, you know what I mean? So, yeah. it's
Well,
always
thank
gotta
you
be
for
done.
that. Yuck. Yes.
I was curious on your spices that you put in the little, what do you call it, the vacuum seal?
Uh-huh.
Do you do it like off your recipes, like into it and then?
Yeah,
take it
so
off, or-
whatever, so for example, I think this first one has cumin, teaspoon of cumin, right? Hold on just a second. And so after I went through all my recipes, I added up all the cumin that I needed and then just bought it in bulk. By the way, don't buy spices in cans or bottles. Just go to Winco and buy in bulk. They're so much cheaper. I went a couple of weeks ago and bought like a cup of everything that I could think of. A cup of allspice, a cup of cumin, a cup of thyme, a cup of this, and all of that together. I think about 15 spices was like $5. Yeah, it's just so inexpensive.
How do you know when nuts go rancid?
You can smell them.
Oh, yeah.
So somewhere back in my genealogy, supposedly great-great-uncle whoever died from botulism. He ate some kind of vegetable that was only water bath canned and not processed canned. And so a lot of people have been worried about that and asked me about that. First of all, if it's bad, it will have a bubble, you know, it won't be sealed. Also, when you open it, you will smell it right away, and it'll be foamy. You know, it'll just be botulism foam all over it, so you can just tell. Don't worry about it. You'll know. Okay, number 9 on the next page. Canned items have water in them. So it's nice to have things stored that need water, but it's also nice to have things that have water. In case, well, you don't have water, you won't need it, and you can drink it. I mean, in an emergency, you're going to want all the water you can get. So I don't mind doing that. And the same thing with the peaches. So when I can peaches, I usually use not a heavy syrup, but I usually use a medium syrup because of the sugar. I mean, I think if I'm starving, that sugar is going to taste really good and give me calories that I need. So, and then number 10, you know when you're done. Okay, here's what I don't like. You have to keep track of what you have and what you need. So somehow you have to do that if you're going to make this work. And I do it on a spreadsheet, like I said. Number 2, canned food does not last as long, and so you have to rotate it. The dried, dehydrated food and freeze-dried food. So I tried dehydrating my own broccoli. I did broccoli, carrots. I did a bunch of, the first year I had that dehydrator, it was just running nonstop. And then when we came home from our mission, I went through all the food and actually opened it up. I thought if it's good, I could just reseal it and recan it. A lot of it was spoiled. I threw a lot of it away. And then I went online and ordered the freeze-dried vegetables. Especially, I think I have freeze-dried broccoli, broccoli, celery, and some other ones like that. Some of the stuff I dehydrated was still good. As a matter of fact, I was making a recipe the other day that called for green pepper. I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't get a green pepper at the store. I didn't have a fresh one. But I knew that I had some dehydrated green pepper upstairs, so I went and got it, and I put it in the water to rehydrate it, and then I'm looking at it going, does it look the same? Is it going to taste the same? But you know what? It was in Spanish rice, and you couldn't even tell. So probably it wasn't as crunchy as a real green pepper would have been, but once I put it in the casserole, you couldn't even tell. I always make it, and then after Craig eats it, I tell him what's in it. Okay, number 3, there's no way I can eat the same 7 things, so I just made 19. I was going to say number $70. What is that? Oh, number 4, if you're going to store and can the same things that you have for dinner, you will have to buy a pressure canner. You can get one at Walmart for about $70. The really nice ones are $200, even $300, but the $70 one will work just fine. I use my canner to can and store chicken, ham, sausage, ground beef, turkey, bacon, spaghetti sauce, just, green beans, carrots, potatoes, just a ton of stuff. Number 5, canned food takes up more space than freeze-dried food. But then you don't need water to prepare it, so. It's not, the missionaries came over the other day, they called and they said, can we come and have dinner? And I'm like, sure. And I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna make, oh, I know, I'll make chicken pot pie. So I take the chicken, my can of chicken, a can of carrots, can of potatoes, can of beans, dump it in the 13 by 9 pan, make a crust to go over it, stick it in the oven, maybe some cream of chicken soup or something to make a little gravy. And I'm done. Because it's already canned, I don't have to peel potatoes or peel carrots. It's already done. Okay, final notes. I will help you. If you are not computer savvy and you can't figure out how to do this, get your recipes together and I'll do it for you. I would be more than happy to help you do that. Number 2, remember food first. Don't be overwhelmed with worrying about first aid kits and 72-hour backpacks and tents and stoves. Food first. At least 3 months, and then you can branch out. Food first. Everything else you can make do with. Or without, I should say. Make a list of what you want, write it down, pray about it, and then get going. Make this a family thing. Get the kids help in deciding what recipes to use and choosing where to store the food. Have a pretend disaster night, cook on your camp stove without electricity, talk about your family plan, and practice. And it will give them peace of mind as well.
4 months of family holiday.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Consider purchasing number 10 cans from the Home Storage Center of items that will store for a long time. Wheat, beans, rice. They have, at the Home Storage Center, they have dehydrated carrots. Now, those are different from freeze-dried carrots. Freeze-dried carrots actually look like carrots. You take them out, and they're all nice and orange, and they look, the same size as carrots, and they're really nice. And the dehydrated carrots have had all the water removed from them. So they're all little shrivelly little things. But when you think of servings in a can, you're going to get 3 times the amount of dehydrated carrots in a can as you are from freeze-dried carrots in a can. I have both. But that's a really good deal. When I saw them, and they were only like $10 at the store, Bishop Storehouse. I was impressed. I thought that was a really good deal. Let's see, where did I go on? Number 10 cans. Try very hard to store food in the house. It lasts much longer if it is climate controlled. Put suitcases, winter clothes, games, seldom used dishes, everything else in the garage, keep the food in the house. The food is what will keep you alive. Protect your food. And then all my beds are on writings. I already told you that. Okay, resources.
I want to mention, just so you know, I did this testing because I was going to do some Tupperware stuff, and I thought, I'm going to test the number 10 can versus I think it's the number 2 rectangle, okay?
Of Tupperware?
Of Tupperware. The number 2 rectangle modular made is the same size, okay? And I took the number 10 can that we had of some stuff that we had used up, and I put water in it and shook it around, and it started dripping water out one of the stuff with the seal on it after it had been emptied. But then I took the number 2.
Oh, you mean where the lid, the plastic lid?
Yeah, the
Okay.
plastic lid, yeah. And eventually it started to drip out the side. And then I compared the number 2 rectangle, which is the one that's about yay high, Tupperware, and I took that one and shook it, and it never leaked at all. Because those are built to withstand ants getting in or anything and to be airtight. And I just recommend that we all probably need some of those 4 and number 10 cans when they're open, especially if they got bent or anything like
Right,
that.
which
just
is,
to
what-
have some
like I said, that's
set
why
aside.
I do this, because then they are also sealed.
So you're
And,
saying after they're, after you've
Open,
opened up
after
your
it's open.
can.
Yeah.
Then
Then
should
after
something to
it's
store it
stable
in,
to
yeah.
be
Right,
transferred.
because, you know, my thinking is that, you know, partially too, is if we were on the move for some reason, that would mean we could be out somewhere where we could be camping, and that means lots of possible bugs, you know, and stuff, which is why that particular Tupperware container would be good to have a few of those that go with your stuff, or your open containers, you know.
And because they're rectangular, they probably would stack and store really well.
Yeah.
Thank
And I'm
you.
sure you know, you want your Ziploc bags and stuff too, but as far as something to make sure that the ants and bugs don't get into it, because once they get into it, there's, you know, it's very sad.
Okay, resources. There is a website called Food Storage Made Easy. They have a Facebook page and a web page, and on their homepage they have lots of resources for family plans, 72-hour kids, binders. You know, they have all kinds of blank pages. And really, if you get on there, on Pinterest or on any of those, you're just going to find a ton of things that will help you. And then I just have a couple of quotes. Too often we bask in our comfortable complacency, and we rationalize that the ravages of war, economic disaster, famine, and earthquake cannot happen here. Those who believe this are either not acquainted with the revelations of the Lord, or they do not believe them. Those who smugly think these calamities will not happen, that they somehow will be set aside because of the righteousness of the saints, they are deceived, and they will rue the day that they harbored such a delusion. The Lord has warned and forewarned us against a day of great tribulation, and given us counsel through his servants on how we can be prepared for these difficult times. Have we heeded that counsel?
Water.
Okay, so and I wasn't going to talk too much about water because we just had a class on that, but I will tell you that we have, personally, Craig and I, have 7 55-gallon drums of water, and that I have these little things at Walmart that are about this big and skinny narrow, and they hold 6 gallons. So we filled those up with water. They're in the hall closet. And Craig said, "Here, carry this into the hall closet." And I'm like, no way, you know. So I'm like pushing it like this down the hallway to get it into the hall closet, because even 6 gallons was heavy. And then we have at Cardenia's, where the water is on sale, you can get those shrink wrapped 24 packs for sometimes only $2.
But you have to buy $10 worth.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so but we did.
Yeah, we
And
did.
so, and now I can just pick that up and throw that in the car, and those are the individual bottles of water.
Okay, I'm not envisioning a shrink wrapped tray.
Yeah, they're just little bottles of water, the individual bottles, yeah, cases of
Yeah,
water.
$2 at current.
$2
If
at
you buy
Cardenia's.
$10 worth.
Yeah.
How long
Right.
do those last though before they start cracking or?
So what we do,
You wanna rotate
you
them.
should rotate them,
Yeah.
especially if they're in the garage.
It's not long term.
And all kinds of stuff.
And you're not supposed to keep them in the car, I guess,
Right.
because of the heat and the plastic.
And
So-
another thing we do is we use those like ocean spray raspberry containers after we're done with them, rinse them out and put water in them. I'm wondering how long they're gonna last before they crack.
So the number, if you use like 2-liter bottles of soda, and because you can put water in those
Yeah.
Right.
and save those, they will last longer than those gallon jugs that you get at the
Right.
store. The gallon jugs will leak,
Yeah.
so after not too long. Okay, second quote. How often do church members arise early in the morning to do the will of the Lord? How often do we say, "Yes, I will obey the commandment to store food and help others, but just now I have neither the time nor the money to spare. I will obey this later." Oh, foolish people. While we procrastinate, the harvest will be over and we will not be saved. Now is the time to follow Abraham's example. Now is the time to repent. Now is the time for prompt obedience to God's will. If the parable of the 10 virgins applies to us, we will not be warned immediately beforehand that we will need to be prepared. Instead, we will need to heed the instructions that we have already been given. Okay, I brought, let me see, what else? Did I talk about everything else? Oh yeah, I love these little things from Costco, right? This just perfectly fits the milk, and I have another one just like it that fits the mashed potatoes. By the way, if you have not tried those mashed potatoes from Bishop's Storehouse, they are so good. I never make potatoes again. They're really, really good. For me, a lot of storing food is all about being able to capitalize when things are really cheap. So when strawberries were on sale, I dehydrated a whole bunch of them, made fruit leather. I will open this up and let you taste it if you want. It's very good. You can buy a lot of dehydrated things from Winco. So these are the pineapples that they have. They're very sugary. It doesn't taste like, regular pineapple, but it tastes pineapple-y. They also have things at Winco like potatoes. These are dehydrated potatoes. They have big bins of them. You just buy them and, add a little milk and some cheese and stick them in the oven and, get potatoes. So this, I wanted to bring this. This is 5-year-old brown sugar that I had shrink wrap. I had taken the 2-pound bag of sugar and sucked the air out and had it in a bag like this. So when I opened it up, it was lumpy, but it wasn't hard. So the sugar was in lumps, but it wasn't hard. I just took a fork to it, and then I wasn't using it fast enough, so I stuck a piece of bread in there, and that'll just soften it right up. So this is 5-year-old brown sugar. That's what that looks like. And, you can even can butter. So when you can it, it has to be heated, because that's how the germs are killed, right? And it never will be solid. It will not look like butter again. But if you put it in the refrigerator like this, it'll be soft butter. So you can pull it right out of the fridge and spread it on your toaster.
So is that where you need to store it? Is it always stored?
No, mine's stored on the shelf. But when I open it and get ready to use it, then I can put it in the refrigerator, and it will.
And you can buy canned butter too.
You can buy canned butter, but it's really expensive. It's really expensive.
Marty?
Yes.
Since you have a shrink wrapper, have you ever used that feature where you can suck the air out of a canning jar?
Yes.
Yeah, it works.
Yes, I have used that.
Yeah.
But it only doesn't work all the time. I'll put it on there and I'll press it and I can hear and then I'll pull it out and go to release it, and then the lid will pop off.
Really?
And so I'll try it and I'll try it and I'll try it, and about after the 8th or 9th time it'll stick. And I'm like, okay, good. And so I don't know if it's the attachment or
It works better on the smaller.
On the smaller
The
ones?
larger ones don't work as well.
Oh,
Sometimes
so
you
like
need
the narrow mouth instead of the
narrow
wide
work.
mouth?
Yeah, the thing works better on that, and I've done it with like two lids sometimes if you do put two lids on. They don't even really need the rings on them, except unless you're gonna open them and, but the wide, but I did it with the last time I used the wide mouth one. I don't know if I didn't have it seated quite as well before when it didn't work. The last time it worked really
Yeah, it only works for me about 1 out of every 10 times or so, and so I just give up. There is a woman online who does a lot of dehydrating, and she uses the oxygen absorbers. She just will open up her can, take what she wants out, especially spices or whatever like that, put a new oxygen absorber in, and within minutes it'll seal itself up. So, but then I find that that's trying to keep those oxygen absorbers sealed up, so that they're still good. I find that to be kind of a tricky thing. Yes?
If you're gonna go to Winco and buy a bunch of local spices, then you can just do a whole bunch all at once or whatever.
That's true, huh? Yeah. So, are there any other questions? I don't know if I answered all your questions. I just kind of was wanting to explain to you how I like this.
So
how I do this.
I'm a novice with this grain, and to circle back to that,
Okay.
400 pounds of grain, and if I understood you correctly, I would need some kind of grinder to grind that and prepare it.
You would, yes, for the wheat. Yes, you do.
If you're gonna make bread.
If you're going to make bread. You can eat boiled wheat. I mean, you can just put it in water and boil it, and you can still eat it. You can, I don't know if you can sprout it if it's been, I heard that once that it's been sucked the air out with the oxygen absorbers that it won't sprout. I don't know if that's true or not, because I never sprout. But you can just eat the wheat. You can boil it, and it tastes like porridge, like malto meal or something like that. So it is edible.
So is that the intent? If you were to store 400 pounds, is that the intent to grind it and bake something?
Yes, more than likely,
To
yes.
have it as porridge? or-
Yes, we had a woman in our ward who called me the other day and she said, I have 9 cans of wheat I don't want. And she said, do you want them? Absolutely. And when I went over to pick them up, I said, why are you getting rid of them? You know, because, well, they last forever. She's only had them maybe 3 or 4 years. She goes, well, I just decided I'm never going to make bread. I don't want to make bread. I don't want to learn how to make bread. And so I'm never going to need them. So she's storing other things. She's going to just live on rice or oats or whatever.
And you relayed the experience of a manual grinder. If we were to have a major earthquake, no electricity, you would have to resort to that.
Yes, but I think somebody told me, I think I know somebody who has big solar panels that have the, will charge up, you know, so maybe you could plug in your wheat grinder and grind your wheat. So, and we have a generator. Even if we never use it to.
You grind it for week.
Yeah, so, you know, the reason I wanted the canner was so that if the power goes out, I don't lose all my food in the refrigerator. You know, that everything in the freezer can be canned up and put on the shelf. Because I think that will.
Even if you had to do it on your camp stove. You could
That's
do it
right.
on your camp stove,
That's right.
You know?
Well, we have a barbecue pit in the backyard.
Yeah.
Do it on the barbecue pit. So, yeah. So, but wheat, for the most part, is a way to store flour, because storing flour itself, now I do have white flour, and it'll store for a couple of years. And when we went on our mission, I vacuum sealed it all up, so that the bugs wouldn't get at it, right? But at home, I just keep it on the pantry shelf. I've never had any problems. Of course, all it takes is one really good infestation, and then there goes your food.
If you put flour, your bag of flour in the freezer overnight, it will store for a long time, and it doesn't get bugs in it.
Oh,
So just leave it in there for
Yeah.
24 hours, and then once you pull it out, it won't. Wow.
Yeah.
okay, that's good to know.
That reminds me, because like, I know with fish to do sushi, you know, to eat it raw, you take fresh fish and it needs to be in the refrigerator, they say for 72 hours to kill off anything that's in there.
In the refrigerator?
In the freezer.
Oh, in the freezer.
And freeze it, and in a very
And
cold freezer, it takes 72 hours to actually kill them, so that you can eat it, so that it's free. So, you know, maybe a day would work, but based on the sushi thing, I'd leave it in for the 3 days.
I know
Just
when
to
we
be safe.
went on our mission, I didn't want to throw away all my boxes of rice-a-roni. And so I dumped them into my vacuum sealer, and I just sealed them all up. The rice-a-roni, and the little thing with the directions, and the flavor packet. And so they're just all sealed up in
I thought most of those came in little pouches now.
the rice-a-roni?
Yeah, as opposed to a bag. I thought there's a lot of that type of stuff that's in pouches.
There are, there's like,
They have them there like pre-cooked already, is that what you're talking about?
No.
Like those like
Oh,
Spanish
yeah.
rice. and-
yeah, yeah.
You know what we're
I
talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
I wonder if those last longer
I
because
don't
they're in a
know.
pouch.
Because they're sealed? I don't know. It's a good question.
I was just gonna say, if anyone's looking for a hand wheat grinder, I have one, if you go on Amazon, it's the Victoria hand-operated grain mill. It's like 70, right now it says Amazon Prime 77.47. It actually comes where you can buy a motor separate if you want to add on to it. And I got it, and it's not too hard to turn it. It does
Too bad?
give you work, like if your arm gets tired, but it's not like, I can't turn it. Even if it's for a fine flour, I don't have to do it twice. Like,
Oh, that's
it works
nice.
pretty well, and my biggest thing is like it took forever, like it took a long time, and I'm like, this is taking too long.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make waffles for dinner. The kids are hungry. And this is that.
Yeah.
So I thought like if I bought the motor to go with it, that would speed it up, but it really just saved my arm. It still took about the same amount.
So have you ever made the pancake and waffle batter with just pouring the wheat into the blender?
Yes,
You
I
can,
have.
yeah, because you can do that, and then you don't have to
Right,
grind
but I was
the
making
wheat.
like a big batch, and that's probably why I was thinking so long. Because I was like, okay, but anyway, it's not too hard to turn, and it does come with both, so you can have the electric and
Good.
I did end up getting a bigger one so that I can like make bigger things and more loaves of bread and whatever too. But I like having that for backup, and it's not too hard.
Yeah, I do is really just kind of practice.
Yeah.
That's why if you're gonna use these recipes, plus, if you come up with 19 recipes and then you make one, and your kids or your husband is like, well, that wasn't my most favorite thing, you know, then cut it out. Then you don't need that. You can find something else. So.
And do that before you buy online.
And do that before you buy a year's supply. Yeah, exactly. Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to reconvene in the kitchen. I have I have this soup. I bought this, by the way, at Winco when I was there, and I wanted to try it. Oh, it's right there. It's got split peas and rice in it. And so I added a can of potatoes and a can of corn and the leftover bacon to the soup. I bought a couple big scoops. It was $4. And then I measured out a cup at a time, and I got 5 meals. So each cup is supposed to serve 4 people. So 5 meals for $4, I didn't think that was too bad, right? Anyway, so I have that, and I have the casserole that you put in the oven, and I have milk. If you've never had or tasted what powdered milk tastes like, I bought a whole gallon of powdered milk. I don't think it's so bad. The missionaries were over the other night drinking it. So, and I bought some homemade granola so that you can try that, and
And also.
and bread.
With the milk, the powdered milk, if you put 1 little teaspoon of vanilla in it.
Oh, I've never tried it with vanilla. I like it just as it is. But I always make it in the blender, right? So today I'm thinking, okay, what if I don't have any electricity? How am I going to make my milk? So I got a pitcher, a small pitcher like this, and put the water in there and whisked it with a whisk, and it blended right up. So it was just fine. All right, let's go. Let's go taste.
Before we head in there, can we have a closing prayer and then people can